Have you ever heard about the concept, in Buddhism in particular, that you should have no attachments to anything? Because attachment is the cause of suffering, feeling attached to something. Well, much can probably be said about it concerning certain areas of our lives, whether we agree with this statement or not, whether it makes sense or not at first glance. But today I wanted to mostly tell you about the one attachment you should really develop, because if you do it, you will find everlasting joy and peace and bliss. And now imagine feeling so great all the time. It is actually possible. That's what I want you to understand. It's possible for you to experience the joy of actually being alive. Not just of going through life, but being alive. That's what it's all about, to find that connection, to make it consciously and part of your experience forever. So let's get right into it. Now, before we start this, you could say lecture about what attachment you should develop, well, the title already hinted at, you should create an attachment to God and God alone. But I first wanted to share with you a paragraph from the Bhagavad Gita, which is about self-realization, and it says the following. When you keep thinking about sense objects, attachment comes. Attachment breeds desire, the lust of possession that burns to anger. Anger clouds the judgment. You can no longer learn from past mistakes. Lost is the power to choose between what is wise and what is unwise, and your life is utter waste. But when you move amidst the world of sense, free from attachment and aversion alike, there comes the peace in which all sorrow ends, and you live in the wisdom of the self. Now, I want you to understand, because that's the end of the paragraph, but I want you to understand real carefully here, or at least to think about this carefully. When you move amidst the world of sense, free from attachment and aversion alike, you could say that in their own ways they're talking about moving free from the states of good and evil, where you constantly go back and forth between good and evil. It's a constant struggle to go through life in that manner, and that's where we usually live. But we can overcome all that if we fully attach ourselves to God all over again, because the fall of mankind was essentially the turning of our backs towards God itself, and we fell from the Garden of Eden, you could say. All these symbolic stories exist, but in this case, if you turn back to God, well, then you will get to experience everlasting joy and bliss, the fulfillment of all your desires, because desire is like usually about something you don't have, so you constantly feel separated from the good things that you would like to have. But God is everything, lives in everything, created everything, so by being attached to Him, turning back to Him, you fulfill all of your desires, whether in this world or another world. It doesn't matter, they will all be fulfilled, and you feel at peace and happy. Now, let us talk about this whole process. God is the self. The one and only attachment you should cultivate is the one with God, so He may bestow His grace on you. Usually we seem to be attached to our family, friends, body, career, etc. All kinds of stuff we physically experience, but we have to look at the cosmic soul inhabiting all of creation. You know, the cosmic soul, that is what you are. That is actually the inner you, the self. And you have to put your attachment to that, so that you may receive divine wisdom and guidance. It is indeed silly to consider your relatives as special people in your world, when the greatest relative you have is God. Your soul is God's soul. If you can perceive the soul that dwells in your body in all its glory, you realize that you never had any relatives other than God. God has many forms, wears many masks. God acts through your friends and family, through your lover, through your children. Always in all of it is God's cosmic soul, and once you see it, you know that is the most precious attachment to cultivate, to remember Him, to see Him in everything, and most of all to see Him in yourself. In other words, don't be attached to the physical forms of anything or anyone. especially in the case of a person. One moment they are there, another moment they are not, which causes suffering if you are highly attached to their physical forms. But they are not their body. They too are part of the cosmic soul of God. We're all a fragment, you could say, of God, currently experiencing this life journey together. So don't be attached to the labels of the physical world. Be attached to what lies beyond and gives rise to all physical phenomena. That is what will lead you towards God's cosmic soul. Now, just in case it shocks you, the idea of not being attached to a person in your world, especially if they are very important to you, I have shared some of this in the past through conversations with people, and they might realize, I guess I should only focus on my relationship with God and my partner comes second, or anybody else comes second for that matter. Well, that is basically what it comes down to. But at that time, many might see it as a joke. Surely I cannot make my partner second. He or she is very precious to me. But putting everything second and God always first, in fact, is the best way to go about it. And God will guide the proper ways of conduct in all areas of your life. Non-attached living, that's what it's about. But it doesn't mean we don't care about someone. It means we simply don't let the negatives influence our minds. Again, if our only attachment is God, we become able to also only feel attached to the good we see in others and ignore the negatives. Unless it directly puts us in danger or harm, then we might have to temporarily do something about it. So many people are suffering deep in their hearts because they are all attached to things and people they shouldn't be attached to. Once you can see it, you can never unsee it. People can be attached to their group of friends, lover, family, children. But again, it's better to enjoy the company of other people, but not put your happiness in them, which happens through attachment. So then the idea of leaving them behind or they leaving us suddenly hurts us greatly. It is a fact of life. Death comes for us all. So then it takes away from everyone we held dear. It takes it away from us. It is better and very useful to cultivate attachment towards the love of God, so you can carry your soul gently into the great beyond. Usually people try and ignore this one major fact of life. They don't want to consider dying. They don't want to think about losing others, and so we try to delay the inevitable for as long as possible. And then one day it occurs and we find ourselves in deep distress and sorrow. But if we carry the love of God in us before these events occur, then God shall also heal our hearts rapidly. So I'm not saying it is bad or wrong to feel sad over losing someone or something you felt an attachment for. I'm saying that in the bigger picture of life, losing people and things is a simple fact that will happen to all of us. So we are therefore better off cultivating unity with God's cosmic soul, while we also have fun with the people and things in our lives as they come and go. Now that is blissful living, that is heaven on earth, that is enjoying this earth in its fullness. But you see, people get attached and then everything gets upset and chaotic, and people start to tear down things that would be beautiful because they want to hold on to it unnaturally. They want to force it to stay in their lives. And there's all sorts of conflict that you can easily imagine coming forth from this attitude, and yet that is where most of humanity lives. All I want, all you probably want, is a feeling of calmness and well-being, but it seems so elusive. Yes, hard it is to experience when the mind is occupied with so many different things during the day, so many different attachments. Much has been said about it. There seems to be a lot of truth in it that most humans get lost in the turmoil. Few can keep their eyes on the overall picture and know they are only experiencing events and things, but it's not the end of it, since there's more that can only be grasped through consciousness itself, since you can't see it with your physical eyes alone. This stuff always reminds me of the problem we face when born into this world. We are mostly raised just to pay attention to one specific part of life, which we call physicality. And in that physicality, a lot of uncertainty exists. Things come and go, good times, bad times, order and chaos. So the overall issue is humans forgetting there are more sides to life and their existence than just that part they can currently observe with their physical eyes. How to convince people this is true, that there is more than they can see? I guess that is a struggle, since people tend to have to somehow become aware of this for themselves. They get some sort of hunch in their soul that something must be up with the way they are experiencing life. There must be more to this than I observe, and they get led towards deeper insights about reality. If I truly know God, if you truly know God and are attached to Him, then you can see Him in everything, in all dimensions of consciousness and reality. I would know immortality in the act, as my consciousness evolves spiritually into greater wisdom. Then I can sense in myself more and more. If I can control my consciousness, I would be free. It's the same for you. If you could control your consciousness fully and let go of all the attachments you have to physical things, you would be free, especially if you tie it then towards a God, the Most High, the most spiritual of all. That will really lead you into wisdom. To consciously affirm God in everything is overwhelming in a way, so I suppose one should ease into it as they practice it. When you listen to music, when you watch something, when you talk to someone, when you see nature, whatever, literally every single thing would be seen as God, and then you can grasp why there is no suffering for those who see God in everything, and know everything to exist within God. Well, that is my job from now on, and the reason for it must be that I have lived many lives before this current one. They even talk about it in the Bhagavad Gita scriptures. If you naturally come to these teachings, it must be your past karma. You studied the nature of life for longer than you can consciously remember. So it naturally arose within me on an early age, when I was very young. I already had this tendency to focus on spirituality, the nature of the consciousness, the soul, the universe, whatever you want to call it personally. I was just led there, and I knew there's more to this life than meets the physical eyes, literally. Even as a young child, and maybe it was the same for you. That's a good sign, to be really honest, because it's good news for me and for you, since I realized, because of this, coming to these teachings on my own accord, it happened not due to my upbringing or a church. It was not tainted by society. Rather, it was my own soul that compelled me to seek further and further into the nature of reality. The good news also is that even if we drop that without attaining complete God awareness, if I'm speaking the truth, if I'm studying the truth and sharing it, then it means you and others, even in a future lifetime, will somewhere carry the insights with you in your heart until it leads you deeper and deeper in your own journeys towards God. So what about you? Perhaps you don't know whether you are supposedly a young soul or old soul. It leads into the question that you may have to go through many lifetimes before it happens. And that could be the case, or maybe not. There's stories about people achieving unity with God when they die. When it happens, they might simply choose God since they somehow remember God's nature. Others rather want to see loved ones that passed away. That's what they focus upon, and that's fine too. It's all up to us, if you are ready or not to fully embrace God and attach yourself to Him. I suppose it depends on whether a person has felt God's bliss. I have, and so I can admit it was the greatest thing I ever experienced. Imagine being incapable of thinking anything negative or feeling anything negative. Total compassion, pure compassion I would say, because it's the only thing you feel. Well, it's non-stop bliss and love throughout your whole body, so to speak. It is hard to forget for me such experiences, where it's like this is far beyond human love and hard to convey. Yes, my words can never truly convey what I felt. It only gives you an idea of what it's about, but I can never make you feel what I truly felt in those moments. It is in unconditional love you find true wisdom. God is love, but let's say God is unconditional love after all. So let me read a specific part for you from Proverbs 3 from the Bible. Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast will be released. The she in this whole passage of the Bible can be considered a human. If you read it that way, it seems to talk about a woman in this case, but I prefer to look at it like a personification of divine peace and wisdom that one should lay hold of in their lives. God is everywhere, everything, nothing beyond the labels of the senses. I am left no other choice but to admit the truth that all is God, and if I truly grasp that, then I can feel loving kindness for everyone and everything, no matter who they are, what past I shared with them, or what they seem to do to me. That is the core of unconditional love as I am learning to perceive it, for unconditional love leads to true wisdom. I can perceive the challenge laid out to me on this journey. It is to cultivate that attitude as a permanent state of life. You have only one job in life, which is to understand the nature of your life, of God, and to wisely attach yourself to divine wisdom. All else we pursue have been dreams and ideas passed on by society or friends or family. Not always, of course. Your dreams can also be God-inspired, but in many cases, let's be honest, people are just chasing things, physically speaking, because of seeing others have it, or because society would make them believe that if you had this, you would be an amazing person in their eyes. No, we have to be God-driven. Things we pursue can make life potentially more enjoyable. This is very true, let's not deny it. But the greatest work is to understand your own mind and what it means to exist, and especially who has given you your existence. Then, by truly understanding the nature of who you are, you can receive guidance on what to do in all areas of your life in order to wisely improve it with the right people and things, so drama and suffering won't haunt your mind. We should find and understand the nature of God first, before we set out to achieve things in the world. Sadly, we generally have it gotten the other way. We first want to achieve things in the world before we start looking for God. It's like you achieve a lot in your life and then you're at old age perhaps and you're like, I achieved all this money, this success, let me just look at God for a second here. It's like God comes second. It's like you don't even love God, truly. That's why we end up in the wrong job we don't like, the relationships that constantly fail. Yes, failure in many forms come to us if we are not led by the wisdom of God in every area of our lives. I think this life of mine was set up to push me towards awakening. If I look at it carefully from birth, there's all kinds of elements in my life that have led me up to this moment in time where I am actually sharing these insights with you as they come through my own deep contemplation and meditation on the cosmic soul of God. And therefore, so you too can do the same. If you but contemplate your own existence, you will find the everlasting bliss of God.